Welcome to today's Global Connections program. I'm Bill Miller. What exactly are the United Nations Millennium Development Goals to promote primary school education and to empower women? What are various organizations such as PACE Universal doing to help achieve these goals? We'll be back in just a moment to talk about these and other important issues. Welcome back to our program. Today we're taking a look at the 8 United Nations Millennium Development Goals, especially 2 of them, the 2 to promote universal primary school education and to empower women. My guest today is someone who's been in the forefront of working on these 2 goals in particular. My guest today is Ms. Deepa Willingham. Ms. Willingham, a naturalized citizen of the United States, was born and brought up in Calcutta, India, where she obtained her primary and secondary education under the stewardship of Mother Teresa. Ms. Willingham's professional life was spent in healthcare management, education, and entrepreneurship. She is an active member of Rotary International, and she's also the founder and chair of PACE Universal. Deepa Willingham, welcome to today's Global Connections program.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you being with me today. Let's talk about PACE Universal. PACE is an acronym, P-A-C-E. What exactly does PACE stand for?
PACE stands for Promise of Assurance to Children Everywhere. And it was started by me in the year 2003. It's a nonprofit, U.S. nonprofit organization that is dedicated to providing, changing communities by and putting an end to child trafficking through the medium of education and empowerment of women.
And how many countries is it operating in? I mentioned India. It's obviously in India, but is it there, or is it going to in other countries, or soon to be in other countries?
It is currently the model. We are setting up the model in a village 45 kilometers from the city of Calcutta. But it is the second one is almost finished in Mexico, in Michoacan area district of Mexico. And several others are being contemplated right now. As a matter of fact, January 19th, I'm going to Honduras, and a site has been selected for duplication there. And also, we have requests to duplicate it in Appalachia. Recently, I got a request.
Appalachia in eastern Kentucky or West Virginia in the United States.
In Detroit, and also with the help of Rotarians, we are contemplating duplicating it in Ethiopia, and perhaps dotting many countries in South Asia where child trafficking is a huge problem, duplicating it there.
Now, in the opening, I mentioned the United Nations developed, 8 Millennium Development Goals, and of course these were adopted in 2000 by the majority of the members of the United Nations General Assembly, and they're to reduce abject poverty, but the second and third goals are to promote universal primary school education and to empower women. How important is it to have children in school to get a basic education, and on the flip side of the coin, to empower women to help create this better world and to overcome some of the problems that you've been talking about?
There is a wonderful, education is absolutely essential. There's a wonderful African proverb, somehow or other the continent of Africa seems to have forgotten it, which says, if you educate a boy, you benefit an individual. If you educate a girl, you benefit a community. So if you want to make sustainable changes to change the dynamics of extreme poverty, you've got to at least educate both boys and girls, but particularly girls. Because girls, when they are educated, the difference is when boys are educated, you do improve that child's life. But boys as they are, they usually leave the rural environment and go to an urban area to find a better job. Whereas a rural girl, if you give her education, particularly beyond the 6th grade level, she marries later, she has less number of children, and if you give her microcredit, she does successful business, and women as nurturer, They want to have their families live in a better environment. So they take some of their income and put it back into the community, and soon the community changes. And that's why this formula works. And that's the formula that I'm using to change things around the world.
And of course, if our viewers would like more information on what we're talking about today, they can go to www.paceuniversal.com and tap into a lot more information than we're probably going to be able to get out today. Let's talk a little bit about what you're doing in India right now. And let's see, is the Piali Learning Center, is that the name of the institution? Tell us a little bit about it as far as the number of students and that type of thing.
Yeah. When I first started in 2003, I thought I would be doing wonderfully if I started a school just for 25 girls. But pretty soon, within 6 months, we had 80 girls. And we were giving them health care, particularly deworming medication, and they were getting clean water in the village in the school itself. But they come 5 days to the school. On weekends, they were drinking dirty water. So what we ended up doing is we started Rotary grant, had to provide clean water to the families. And from this, the project started expanding, and now it has become not only a school we are currently serving 230 girls, and 50 mothers are in our adult literacy program and vocational training program. But we have also supplied clean water we have put in 50 clean water wells. We have added close to 400 sanitation units. We have put in roads. We have planted 10,000 fruit trees. In other words, the entire village is upgraded so that the girls have the basic structure within which their education and their health and well-being can succeed. So that is the model, basically, is begin with the girls' education, empower the women, give them earning potential, because when women have the earning potential, their status in their family increases, and then provide the basic infrastructure so that all of them could succeed. So that's the model,
exactly,
in a nutshell.
Very good. Now, you provided a video for us, and we're going to take a look at that in just a moment, but it's really a graphic video, and it just draws you in, and there's no talking in it, obviously, but there is some music, and you hear a heart beating, but it's very, very poignant, and it lays out some of the problems. But let's take about a minute, 55 seconds, go to the video, and we'll come back and talk about it.
Okay.
Deepa, that points out so many challenges. I mean, I don't know where to begin. You have child brides, you have undereducated or uneducated women, you have rape, you have early pregnancies. What types of techniques do you use in your school to help the students avoid these problems, and to work not only with the students but the families. You have to involve them too, to some degree, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. Almost all of the girls that are going there have experience that what this tape is talking about. We send out if this girl doesn't show up, we have people who go out in the community, and we also have people in the community who are feeling the pulse within the community, keeping track of all our girls and the women. But one of the new things that we are going to implement at the school is, now that we have a huge auditorium type building, is we're going to start a movie club. In India, movies are very popular. So we are going to show a popular Hindi or Bengali movie and stop it in the middle. And what we are going to do are PSAs on these social issues. How it is wrong to rape your daughter, how it is wrong to rape your wife, how it is wrong to do X, Y, Z. And then slowly, it's a slow, methodical system of brainwashing years of cultural biases. It is nothing glamorous. It is hard, strong work, remaining focused and dedicated to allowing the girls to be children, allowing the wives to be wives, allowing the wives to be women. And so far, the community has responded very favorably, and I'm very pleased that the fathers are now coming to the school and thanking us for giving this opportunity to their girls.
Well, you're watching Global Connections Television, which is an independently produced program. The opinions expressed on Global Connections are solely those of the moderator and his guest. Today we're taking a look at PACE Universal, which is a non-governmental organization that's working on a variety of goals, two of which are to promote universal primary school education and also to empower women. And my guest today is an expert on it. My guest today is Ms. Deepa Willingham. Deepa Willingham is the founder and chair of PACE Universal, which is operating in Calcutta, India, or in that area. We were talking, Deepa, about the situation with the girls in the school, and you were talking about the fact that you're involving the families, and you also have to have partners. We can't operate in a vacuum. We have to have a variety of folks to work with us. Who are some of your partners in that area? Do you have non-governmental organizations? You mentioned Rotary, and for full disclosure, you and I have been involved in Rotary for many years, but who are some of your partners in trying to help to achieve these goals?
Well, our biggest partner right now is Rotary International. Rotary does not build buildings, brick and mortar. PACE Universal provides the brick and mortar and provides the management staff, whereas Rotary does a lot of the programs that we have implemented there. This is my second trip to Honduras, and CARE Central America would like to pair with us. We also have I have received awards from Marigold. You know the movie, the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. They have given me award to create a safe house. So organizations like this are heard about us and now really understanding what we are trying to do for the planet and really getting involved. So we'll see what happens. In Honduras, probably some of the government agencies are interested in duplicating it. So far, we have avoided real relationship with governmental organizations, but it is time that we need to involve both public and private sector to further this along on a global basis.
Exactly. That points up a very interesting operation too, because so often we overlook the non-governmental organizations as partners. And of course we see, we'll just take Rotary International with 1.2 million members, 34,000 clubs around the world, has been the United Nations World Health Organization, UN Children's Fund, and the U.S. Centers for Disease Control major partner in helping to defeat polio and other childhood diseases. But there are others out there too. Lions International has been involved with the UN World Health Organization on vision projects. You have Kiwanis International who have been involved with several programs. The iodine deficiency disorder program comes to mind, and they've been involved. So some of those service clubs out there can be great partners because they have an international reach and they want to partner with their clubs. They want clubs in Calcutta to team up with a club in New York City or wherever it might be, or La Paz, Bolivia, or wherever the club has an interest.
Soroptimist International has been involved with us. They are They are, of course, their main platform is to avoid female mutilation, genital mutilation, but they also are very interested in empowering women. So many of our women who are in our program are supported by Seroptimus International.
Not too many years ago, talking about empowering women, the United Nations put out some statistics that were really mind-numbing. They indicated that women headed up 1 out of every 3 households. They did about, at that time, 75%. I think it's down to about 68% of the work that was done. They owned 1/100th of the property and earned 1/10 of what men earn. That seems to be a tremendous imbalance between what women contribute to a society and what they're actually getting, financial remuneration from that standpoint.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The UN statistics currently shows that there are about 1.7 billion people worldwide that are illiterate. 2/3 of that number are still women. And you cannot have a sustainable country with women being, that many numbers of women being illiterate. In one of my speeches, I frequently quote India's first Prime Minister. He had stated, and it was very true, you can tell the condition of a nation by looking at the status of its women. You got to pay attention to what we are doing to the women of the world.
Exactly. What are some of the statistics in your area of the world? And it's not just in the India, Pakistan area, but it's around the world. It's in the areas of human trafficking. We're starting to read more and more about that. We're starting to hear about it. I know Nicholas Kristof, who writes for the New York Times, he and his wife wrote a book on this. There have been a lot of studies done. You're starting to see more articles. But how large is this problem of human trafficking, and how pervasive is it around the world?
It is very pervasive. Currently, it is estimated around 7,000 girls and women, mostly under 18, that are trafficked annually worldwide. In Nepal, for example, the reason past RI President Kullan Banerjee wanted me to duplicate it in Bengal and in Nepal and even in Myanmar, that in Nepal itself, it's estimated 4,000 to 5,000 girls are trafficked into India annually. And it's just those kind of statistics are incredible. In the United States, there is a huge problem with girls being brought in as slaves under false pretenses of being au pair, but they're enslaved. And so it's not just in underdeveloped countries. Even in developed countries, there's a huge problem with girl or women trafficking. And Kristof and Woodan are very right. We need to pay attention, because this is not how you create a safe planet.
That's for sure, yes. Now, I've seen statistics that in the United States alone, something like 45 to 50,000, and that may just be the tip of the iceberg that we know about. It could be that it goes much deeper than that, and there are many more people that I'm not sure how they reach their statistics, but it's a very large figure.
Yeah, when I talk to my U.S. friends and colleagues and so on, when I say there is a problem in the United States, they all look like I've gone crazy. Except, because we are not aware of what is going on, even in our own country. And it is something that's almost on a crisis mode that we need to address as the human race.
That's a good way to describe it, a crisis mode. Now, these are very serious topics. They're very difficult topics to deal with, too. You talk about child brides. You have a family living in poverty who maybe they do sell the child so they can live for a few more months or something like that. But it's really, these are very, very stark choices that have to be made, and it's very difficult. You've been involved in this for many years, and you're an entrepreneur. As you look back, you've had a very illustrious career, and I'm sure you'll have a very illustrious career in the future, but what are some of the fondest memories that you've had as far as what you've tried to do to help change the situation, to improve the lives of these children and women, and to really help create this better world?
Well, the biggest fondest memory is my recent trip to celebrate 10 years of the schooling, to see some of the earliest children. We showed them when they first came in, and we showed them as to what they look like now. But then we brought their parents up to the stage. And what was absolutely moving is that, for example, one of the girls, the mother spoke, and the girls translated it into English. And what she translated was, my mother said we are very poor, and if this school hadn't been there, I would have been sold. Thank you for saving us. So those are the kinds of stories that really get your, I'm 72 years old, I keep a very incredible schedule, and those are the stories that keep me going.
Now, as I recall, a few years ago, several years ago, well, not too many years ago, you were a major speaker at a Rotary International conference in Birmingham, England.
Yes.
And I think you had some pretty high-level celebrities who were with you. Tell us a little bit about that, and what message did you give to the Rotarians?
Yes. I was the Rotary International staff were organizing the convention, and they called me up one day. They said, Deepa, we have given you a very wonderful spot to speak. I said, what is it? And they said, you're going to be ending the convention. I said, why is that a good spot? They said, oh yeah, because people would leave feeling inspired. And then they very sheepishly tell me that, and we have further good news. I said, what is that? They said, your stage warmers will be Desmond Tutu and Dr. Jane Goodall. And before they arrived, our current UN Secretary General was there. So I followed 3 high-profile people, and here's me, lowly Rotarian, finishing the convention. But it was a message, the same message that soliciting Rotarians' help, that we need to all work together to make sure we can turn the world statistics around, because we are not going to have a safe planet for our children and our grandchildren unless we address these types of issues around the planet.
There are so many issues that are out there, and of course I mentioned the 8 Millennium Development Goals, and goal number 7 is sustainable development, and encompassed within sustainable development is climate change. We see the climate is changing, the glaciers are melting, the seas are rising, desertification is taking place, weather patterns are becoming disrupted. Do you factor that in when you're working with the students, with the families? Do you talk a lot about sustainable development and how important it is for us to be aware of this and to try to help reverse, or at least slow it down? We may never reverse it, but at least we can try to slow it down to some degree.
You'll be very proud to know that this is one of the few, if not only, school in an Indian village that is completely waste-free. Australian Rotarians came in and they said, Deepa, we cannot support it unless, what are you going to do with all the waste that the school is going to generate? So they put in a self-contained sewage treatment plant on the campus. So it is completely environmentally sound. We use recycling. The water is recycled. It's a plastic-free environment. And so we are also setting it up as a model that you can do this while we are rainwater harvesting, that you can also take care of environment at the same time. So we want it to be not only a model poverty eradication program, child trafficking, preventing child trafficking, but also environmentally sound campus that can be duplicated elsewhere.
Exactly.
And it absolutely has to pay attention to the environment.
Exactly. And so our viewers can go to www.paceuniversal.com and get more information on this particular project and many others too. As you look at the problems that we're confronting today in this world, what do you see, very briefly, as the number one challenge that we're going to have to confront immediately to try to help get this world righted and to create this better world that we've been talking about? We've talked about so many, but do you see one that jumps out at you very briefly?
Malana is right. Girls' education. Educate a girl. You want to change the planet, educate a girl. Because even U.S. Council of Foreign Relations has a wonderful book that is a compilation of last 30 years of what U.S. foreign aid went abroad and what worked, what didn't work. What worked is when they focused on girls and women empowerment. And so UN Millennium Goal, the first 2 are absolutely correct. You need to provide primary education and you need to empower women in order to change things around.
Exactly. And of course, Malala, you were talking about the young Pakistani girl who was shot because she was trying to attend school. And of course, as I recall, they had a special event here at the United Nations, Malala Day at the United Nations, and it focused on her. But you're right, these issues are so absolutely important, and we've just got to focus on them. And you're certainly doing a tremendous amount of work in your area. But Deepa Willingham, I want to thank you so very much for a very interesting and a very informative program.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, my pleasure. I'm Bill Miller. Thank you for joining us today on Global Connections Television.